you want TSM versus Samsung Galaxy, Day 2 of Worlds. Tom Kench, the first ban from TSM. Samsung Galaxy respond in kind with an Italy ban.
Like the Nami being not banned against Wraith, and then Crown having his Victor open were kind of draft mistakes against Samsung, who to some degree do have that specialized champion pool. So far, neither of these champions respected. And seeing if TSM are fishing for a first pick like the Rek'Sai we saw in the previous games, or something like the Nami.
Or just the Syndra first pick here. It has been a very common third ban on the red side. Is it going to be the same thing? Because then we could very well see Bjergsen just insta-lock in and look for a repeat performance of what Faker showed us earlier.
Well, Vlad and Jace for the last bans from TSM. Cassio and Siva will actually be the last two from Samsung. And there's the Syndra open, insta-locked almost from TSM.
This is where we usually see like a Rek'Sai Rumble rotation come out. Very strong top laner pick, especially with the Jace counterpart kind of taken out of the equation. But we could also look for a jungle counter pick because the likes of Elise are open, Rek'Sai, even Zac, so there is not as high of a pressure on jungle pool as there was yesterday.
Well, you might be surprised to see Ezreal taken so early, but the one thing about Ruler is that his champion pool was very constricted. The guy was playing almost exclusively the likes of Sivir and Ashe. Ashe at the moment, much less of a consideration, even though INTZ did pick up a win with it. Ezreal does have the range to, in many ways, even outrange a max range QE from Syndra, so ultra safety guaranteed on Ruler, and the Sivir was banned.
Yeah, and if you're looking at Sivir out, Ezreal out is going to force double lift on his Jhin again, a pick he likes very much so himself, but many people have come out and said, you know what? This low mobility carries in a Jhin and a Syndra, sure they're fine aggressively, but you need to be careful defensively, and maybe TSM picks themselves into a pitfall if Samsung Galaxy can stall into the mid game and then close the gap on these low mobility carries. They can come out victorious again.
Well, we'll see if they tread a little more carefully. Rumble Ezreal for Samsung Galaxy is answered by Lee Sin and Kennen here for TSM, so they're saving their bottom lane here, locking in the solos and jungle early.
Really likely seen with laners so they can set up CC for themselves because it facilitates an easy queue, especially Svenskeren with how quick he is. If he's blocked by a minion, he will just dash to the mid laner or the top laner and queue out from there. So Kennen can stun for himself, Syndra has QE, Svenskeren can follow up, so this opens up a lot of combinations, and both laners are push and aggressive, which means Svenskeren can do his favorite style, which is invading the enemy jungle.
Something he's already done on the world stage. He was their MVP yesterday. It would have been a Svenskeren MVP overall if they'd taken the victory. And now suddenly, a lot of the tools that were used against TSM are coming back. Wraith is a fantastic Alistar player, and he'll be taking it here and doing his best Mata impression to shut down TSM.
Yeah, but be careful. This means Samsung Galaxy right now could be drafting 3 losing lanes. Rumble can force push, but leaves himself exposed. But mid lane, Syndra has the pressure early, I think, against the Varus, and an Alistar Ez lane is almost bound to be pushed in, which gives Svenskeren free reign. That comes with a lot of responsibility to make things happen, but it could actually bode well for TSM.
So what's a double lift and Bifrost pick then? Because they've saved their picks very late down the draft. They've already seen Samsung Galaxy's bottom lane. In fact, looks like Ambition will counter pick jungle of all roles here to finish Samsung Galaxy's draft. 30 seconds left for TSM. There are so many questions that I'm sure they're asking themselves now.
If this was a double lift after Mullane, I think we could actually see a Morgana come out just for the Black Shield against the combo here. But the Bar Jhin should be serviceable and have control over the lane because you can actually bully the Alistar quite a bit and then deny the Ezreal damage with the shield. The control should be on the side of TSM. However, it's a very flippy matchup and it all depends on the level 1.
Curiously, the last pick was left for jungle on the side of Samsung. They could have just taken Elise in an earlier rotation. Wasn't really a threat of the Varus being taken away by TSM. I mean, obviously it's an outside chance of an AD carry pick. It wasn't really expected.
I mean, it could be good. Varus is actually serviceable lane into Ezreal, and maybe this is a comp that they've played together a lot. They wanted maybe some more physical damage with Rumble in the top lane, And going for like Victor Rumble might be too much magic damage.
Sure.
That's why they said, you know guys, we're gonna play this comp anyways, let's just reveal it.
And the other problem is that Victor has to get a much closer combat range than someone like the Varus who can be off screen, but Varus loses his flash, or if he's just way under his inner turret, basically farming out of the screen, there's going to be no map pressure, and as you said, 3 losing lanes and a ganking jungle like Elise. This is going to have to be Ambition having a day out, or some massive teleport plays from Cuvée, or I mean, the early game is just wide open for TSM.
Definitely the early game. There is a window at level 3 or 4 where he groups up with Cuvée and says, you know what, Cuvée, you can go for what we call like the donkey push. Literally just blind flames over ahead, push in, sneak in through lane, because that's the pushing lane for Rumble. The problem is, I never considered it the winning lane because he exposes himself far too much if he just AFK pushes.
Well, it's pretty interesting here. Unsurprising last pick, at least from Samsung Galaxy. It will round out their draft. TSM, I think, have all the tools here to play the way they want to play. Samsung Galaxy probably feel very similarly about their team comp. What I do like about the setup for this game is that Doublelift just put his money right where his mouth is. I'm not going to make those same mistakes again.
Yeah.
Confident in his Jhin play versus the Alistar. Well, if there's ever a time to show it, it's right now.
And it actually is slightly easier to flash a new combo because Riot actually, while fixing the WQ combination, it prevents early Q, so you have slightly more time to flash it. So if Doublelift eats a point-blank combo, it's his own damn fault.
This is a Samsung practice comp. They played so much poke comp. We wondered, would it be Wraith? Would it be Core Jade? Would it be Initiation? Would it be poke? It's back to Wraith. It's back to these specific window comps. They play super aggressively, super practiced. But if TSM just snowball the game out of control in the early game, it's going to be so hard for them to find their footing.
Well, we've seen one game from each of these teams already, and it's still early into Worlds, but you've heard our analyst predictions. Now let's hear yours. Tweet at Elevel Esports with the hashtag TSM win or the hashtag SSG win, and let us know which team is picking up a win here today. I know who the crowd is voting for. Well, we'll see what happens out there on Twitter, but the crowd is behind them. TSM, can they find their first win of the tournament, or Samsung continue a strong streak of consistent play that came all the way from their postseason?
Sometimes you have to take a step back and appreciate the crowd.
Yeah, I was enjoying it. We have a really good view here on the crowd, up on the balcony, on the side. I mean, that's what these players live for. You know, making it to the world stage, having them chant your name. There was an interview, don't remember who it was, that was talking about how good these cheers are, how good it
It
feels.
was actually Peanut this morning who was
yeah.
talking about the fact that he was jealous of the big cheers.
None of the cheers for TSM specifically here, but just that they, in their own region, don't get as much. So,
hey.
turns out NA fans greater than Korean fans.
We did it. We closed the gap.
Gap is closing finally. Off the rift.
All right, so everyone's moved out for level 1, but it's been pretty subdued here. Couple flares here and there, but it looks like everyone just fanning out and getting that neutral vision. Bifrost and Doublelift hanging out in the tri-bush. Some dueling wards, I suppose, facing each other, but that's the Galaxy aren't even looking for the camp by the looks of things, so we'll have a pretty standard start here.
They may actually go for it.
Much more defensive wards than we'd expect. These wards are more for taking a camp rather than actually contesting the lane as the flares come out in the mid lane.
I know people get tired of me talking about it, but it's actually a good lane to do a camp here because you get the early level 2 on the Ezreal, which means he can kind of safe farm himself. There isn't enough forward pressure like a poke support to kind of take him off the wave. So you're fine getting the slower level 2. Perfect camp here by Doublelift. Look how he finishes off the small Krug with Q. So the bounce goes up in damage onto the big one. It's little things. Could cost you a second.
No one loves the Krugs more than you, Crapper.
Nope. I'm slightly obsessed.
Well, you can see they're coming down to this lane. Both dual lanes actually opted for a very clean camp, so good start there. Doublelift early level 2 along with Ruler.
And this is what's going to happen. The Q with the poke is really great start here, and they give up the control. The thing is, Ruler is so happy that he's level 2 right now because he has a little bit more damage on his Q. The lane will push faster forward because it's uninfluenced from the start, and it's actually much more comfortable to farm. So we can start looking at mid lane instead.
Good little trade there from Crown, actually, but Bjergsen playing up and aggressive. You saw Faker demolish Bjergsen in the mid lane. Sorry, Jensen in the mid lane as Ruler eats another bit of poke.
Yeah, the classic, you know, Q slightly forward, make him juke into it. Bifrost much more in his element here. We saw Bjergsen trying to overlap those Qs again. We were talking about.
Lane pressure actually allows Bifrost to exit lane, ward up the blue buff. You can see Lee Sin is at least in the vicinity. Well pulled so far by Ambition, but we're kind of looking for Ambition to be the barometer of the early game. The buff steal, pretty built for Svenskeren.
He's going to go in for it as well, I think. Sven looking for it, goes for Ambition. Does get the buff, I think, but now he's getting exhausted in by Wraith. Good double pull. Will make sure they stay safe, but Sven doesn't quite get away with the steal. Great pressure still.
Yeah, and he gets the 2 small ones. There's quite some experience here, and that allows Bjergsen to play really far up here.
Good damage there, and Crown taking his lumps, doing what he can. He does have cleanse, so defensive here, knowing the potential pressure from Bjergsen, particularly if Sven comes to visit the lane, but they are playing with fire here in this mid lane, and Bjergsen will push the wave and go back.
That whole play shows the importance of the level 2 trading because they got that damage salvo freed up by a Frost to go and ward. Elise's jungle pathing is so much more predictable because unlike the Zax and the Lee Sin, she needs that blue buff for her first clear. Everything came together for TSM. It means that Ambition's pathing is that much more predictable, and we're looking for him to be the game breaker for what could be a very one-sided early game for TSM.
He skips, The Scuttle Crab goes for deep ward here. Really wants big information because QV, because he saw them bot, could push really hard on top because he knew he was alone. And now Ambition, instead of going for the dive,
he knows
he's actually going for Svensson right here. Svensson jukes out because he knew he was close. Really good read.
Still taking damage, but he's actually going to come back in. QV's under the turret, but he's actually just out of range, and Sven
The minions
might even look back in for him. Minions doing
Gabs is
damage.
coming first.
Svenskara getting do it again. Right to the Q. Wall ups over. They've got QV. First blood. TSM starts him over the wall. Ambition repels down to his death. Also with the second kill.
Oh, so many smart micro elements in that play. It all starts with the ward being on a very high cooldown, so you can see when it was placed. Svensson knew the ward was so recently placed, so he could extrapolate that Ambition must still be close. So as he approached that brush, he went for a blind juke in the cocoon. Then it turned around. Q, if he was stuck on the tower, he kind of gave away the position again. Now look at it again. This is blind because he knew the ward was so recently placed. Now cannon comes down. QV is forced to join the fight. And look at the minions. This cannon creep is dealing 2, 3 hits onto QV, and it changes everything.
I think the biggest story is that Ambition is feeling pressure to actually be on the offensive. Usually the defensive jungler, usually playing the wreck side, just picking up farm. Graves picking up farm. A really nice play from Bjergsen. Stop them from having an exit towards the mid lane because, of course, Varus had just recalled. Hornsel levels up, doesn't die, and TSM suddenly have a 1200 gold.
And that's what we were discussing in Champs League. When you have these matchups in the mid lane that can push despite being a first pick, like the Syndra, it is such a strong meta pick here in the Worlds Tournament. Syndra first pick, still has the push early, still has kill pressure, and it can actually roam and influence the side lanes.
And the CS nice and even across the lane so far. Doublelift does have that Cole, early Shin for Ruler, kind of everything acting out as you would expect normally, and Hornsel with that revolver. Looks like he'll be going pro to cannon as well, which will be fun to track, but the gold is up for TSM, and they're now equipped to play the style that made them so successful in North America. We'll see if they can keep up the level of play, because that's a great start to the game, but they need to keep the tempo up.
Yeah, we can actually look at the skill build as well. There's 3 points in Q here for Hanser. Cannon in some matchups maxes W if you can auto-attack a lot and then proc the stun finally with a Q. But because he's getting pushed in, he really likes a higher spell damage Q.
All in?
Yeah.
Ulti does go in for a crowd, dead! Bjergsen with a perfect calculation.
Really nice solo kill from Bjergsen. This is going exactly to plan for TSM. I'm getting run over in the mid lane. We already saw one mid laner run over another, and this time it's Korea versus North America again, but it's Bjergsen running over Crown.
And what's going to happen with this Syndra pick during Worlds? Because you can run Cleanse versus a stun, but you can't cleanse these spears off your face when they come flying in here. Crown just simply drops. And that's Bjergsen pushing, get a kill or an assist in another lane, come back slightly stronger. And he's asserting dominance, especially into a pick that has to build tier early. No additional health or magic resistance.
And the tier is up now for Crown. He's got his ultimate ready as well, but Lost Chapter already finishes. Bifrost and Sven hunting at
Lying in wait.
Base checks, does get tagged, but Sven missed the Q.
Yeah, similar there. He's
Doublelift flashing the flare as we see the TSM fans out in full force, posting in the crowd and out on Twitter. 77% to win might have gone up a bit after those first 2 kills.
I just love the fact that TSM kind of shook off what was a tough defeat for them yesterday. Very much similar lineup, sticking with the Jhin, sticking with the Lee Sin. One pick that worked for them, one pick that didn't really work for them. Same aggressive style we've seen from them in North America, and Samsung picked themselves into a corner, forced aggression out of Ambition. Ambition kind of found out, and TSM in full control.
And this almost feels like a little bit of bad research, because if you watch TSM in playoffs, yes, they were slow. But if you watch TSM in the regular season, they were an incredibly fast team. And then if you look at their draft, what they were allowed to get here, they just have so much pressure in the lanes. Hanser, looking to be fast himself.
Looking for the stun, does get the first one. Bjergsen chains it in. QV now going to be the target. He's overheated, and Bjergsen grabs another.
And again, Bjergsen suddenly is tough, because guess what? He can just push in, and that's the value of winning matchups. You need to translate that advantage into a different lane. Gone are the days where you solo kill people in lane all the time, but you can get the push and roam.
Yeah, they're making it look easy, TSM, playing it by the book, and Samsung, their playbook's kind of closed. They need a new book, because for now, every lane they enter in, even with pink ward coverage there from the Rumble, it didn't matter. Just casually walked in, Bjergsen, and picked up another kill, even without Ghost to really close the distance fast, and Svenskaren's entering another lane, and it's Crown now.
Oh, good stuff for Bjergsen. Flash kick, ulti all in, and Sven gets the next one.
It's like seeing Faker all over again. Just a long distance QE into the follow-up.
He just changed the nameplates, and it feels like we're getting an instant replay of game one of the day, which, for those North American fans who are making their voices heard, is happy times.
Sven is leading the charge, starting to run over this game and letting Bjergsen and Hornside just play up in his favorite place, which has always been the enemy jungle.
And I just love how it all came to be, that blind juke in the top lane by Svenskeren. It's a little thing. Being safe in your approach to brushes can change the entire game, because I got them 2 kills, got Bjergsen ahead. Now Sven's in a little bit of trouble here because there's still some teleports
Right
available.
in, good combo in there. Sven is going to go down. No Bifrost might have saved him. Safeguards the safety. Might be enough help. Double lift. Takes out Rafe on the other end. He's getting chased by Cube, but Bifrost will pay the price as Ruler gets the trade.
The first kill on the board for Samsung. Not much else to speak of. Not going to be able to take down double lift either. Teleport invested. Honsa holds on to his. We'll be able to push in and grow a lead in the top.
Yeah, now there's teleport advantage on the side of TSM. We need to see what they do and how they really squeeze the most out of that TP advantage. One of the concepts that hasn't been executed that well at Worlds. It starts with borderline aggressive invade here because the Alistar actually ropes first over Bifrost here. He slightly could have been there sooner. Good heal from double lift here. Follow up 1-for-1, it's okay. Like, this is a good play for TSM still. Mostly because there was really great shield block from Bifrost.
I was going to say, Bifrost positioning to be there, put up the Unbreakable, cancelled out so much damage, and items aren't there yet for Samsung, so they needed every bit of damage to register, and that was the difference.
And look at Crown. I don't think he's ever... Like, has he seen the river? Does he know what the river looks like anymore? This guy has only seen like part of the map. He's playing zoomed in. He basically hugs his tower the entire game. He must really start admiring like the artwork that we put into that tower. Summoner's Rift overhaul, really good for him. But that's about as far as he's gone the entire game.
And that's just a testament to TSM's pressure, really. Bjergsen playing the lane well. Morelli-Nomicon already finished up here. Sven, could he be there? Maybe. He's usually in the enemy jungle, but he can swing by and pivot for a gank. TSM are just playing up with their pressure. You mentioned Samsung picking through losing lanes. Well, TSM picked 3 winning lanes as a result of that draft, and it's starting to pay off already 11 minutes into the game.
But you have to play to your draft, and this has been a strength of Samsung until today. Now, should you pick yourself into this big a hole? No, but it almost felt like Ambition right at the end when he picked his jungle, realized, oh crap, I really need to pull off something to kind of sway the natural tendency of how these losing lanes will go. He didn't do that. We saw the big lead for TSM, and they haven't taken the foot off the accelerator.
Crown just can't move off this at all. In fact, they're going to go for a dive. Ambition forced to repel out of the way, but they might still go for a good pull from Wraith. Might be enough to defend, and Double is firing shots in the enemy team. Wraith takes a lot of damage, but Bjergsen all-ins onto Ruler and chunks him down to flash forward. Really wants to kill it. He does get it. Hornsa came down as well. TSM all-inning for the bottom turret. Not done, actually. Bjergsen going to juke out the ulti as Crown barely shorts the chain of corruption, but I don't quite know how they get out of this one. Let's find out. Crown gonna get knocked up here. Sven kicks him into Bifrost. Hornsa's here as well, and he flushes the wall, but Double Lift swoops in to clean him up as Hornsa gets credit.
That was a dirty play. When you're winning this hard, that you force the enemy Ezreal to take a page out of Trashy's book and ulti towards the fountain. TSM as well. They had 4,000 gold lead at 10 minutes. This was the largest of Worlds so far. So if there's any way to better start your game 2 at Worlds, it is this way.
Considering the Scrim remake, but of course you're live on the stage here, and you don't have that option if you're Samsung. You kind of understand the mistakes you've made. Ambition tried to spare the blushes, only further put them in a hole, and TSM, they know how to win when they're ahead, and that doesn't seem to change on the world stage.
6,000 gold up already, and they'll add a Mountain Drake to their tally with an Infernal on the way next. But let's just watch this again.
Yeah, I just really like how at the end of this phase, walls become an option. They just troll people, kick them over. Hanser then uses ulti over the wall. It all starts with double lift. Apprehensive to not dive too deep, get turret aggro. Ruler, panic mistake, ultis backwards, happens to the best Sonas out of us.
You might wonder why this happened this way. When Kennen enters the fight, he's low health, because actually he teleported in vision of the Rumble, got flame spitted, but none of that mattered because no way for Rumble to interrupt that ultimate, and the cleanup on Crown was beautiful.
Yeah, kick over the wall into Kennen ulti, who then has Lightning Rush to close the gap. They use teleport advantage. This is the way you exploit the fact that you have an additional TP on the top side. You just go for the dive on the bot. Right now, Samsung Galaxy are tired of playing bot lane, looking to put a numbers advantage in top lane, trade some objectives.
TSM are already on the way, actually. They are going to lose this turret, but if Samsung get cut off here, could be problems here. Sven actually moving in, and they even can't commit for the turret.
Yeah, they're fine. At least backing off, but tower remains on a couple of slivers of health, and Samsung Galaxy desperately need that gold infusion. Let's see how much respect these Hunts are playing with. Enough, it seems.
Yeah, ditching lane is the really only big hope here for Samsung. No safety in the bot lane. The likes of Lee Sin can skip around the back and force more picks. So can't really enter that lane. The only short lane left really for them to consider is top lane. Mid lane for now, it's just going to be Varus wave clearing, hoping against Hope he picks up a blue buff, but even the Drake really lines up well for TSM. Picking up an Infernal Drake when that spawns will just cement what already is a big early game lead for TSM.
Bjergsen going to keep pushing in, level 11 now to Crown's 9, and about to take the turret with pretty much just effort by himself. Syndra's starting to run over people in this tournament, it feels like.
Yeah, we thought Varus was really good at holding his turret here.
Oh no, a flash kick in, Ambition! This gets annihilated, repels out of the way, and that was very well played.
Really nice mechanics, repelled the damage from the Syndra ultimate, got out as well, but you know, it's a feel-good moment for Ambition, but no more. It doesn't stop the pressure coming through from TSM.
Yeah, a small band-aid on a bullet hole right there. Samsung Galaxy still losing pretty hard. 26 minutes earlier, this mid lane turret went down. Faris last game protected it until the 40th minute mark, but right now TSM finishing up the third turret on the tier 1 list, and then they're moving up that vision, you know, squeezing the minimap, making sure that Samsung Galaxy are playing on a very tiny bit of land.
This is the level of play we expected from TSM here. When they get leads, they tend to close them quickly. And they finally kind of found their footing here after a couple missteps here and there. Whereas RNG yesterday, certainly looking strong. Samsung can hold on. They've got a great team fighting comp if they can get to a good spot with it. But Barra's going to have to wave clear. Cube are going to have to manicure those side waves. And Ruler, get whatever CS you can grab in and amongst it all, because Double Lift is 40 CS ahead of you, Bjergsen is 50 CS ahead of Crown, and Haunts up pretty much even there. So is the jungle matchup, but that's about all the good news currently for Samsung Galaxy.
Yeah, it's so hard to play, not only against the Syndra pick inherently, but also the build that she goes. Morellonomicon is one of the best early spike items in the game. 100 ability power, 20% CDR, followed up then by an NLR, which gives you another 60 AP. Bjergsen right now is sitting on like 245 AP or something, with a Giant's Belt in his inventory. He's too tanky to one-shot, and he will one-shot you.
And I actually think the power spike comes earlier than that for AP champions, because the Lost Chapter, it just gives you everything you want.
Yep.
Compare it to Tier that, of course, the Varus has to opt into. Purely mana versus mana ability power and mana regen per level with the % refresh that you get on level up. Lost Chapter is such a nice start for a lot of these AP champions. Fits Syndra so well. And this is the performance that the NA fans want. This is the performance to vindicate the high expectations for TSM. We heard the whispers, all the Asian teams, the Korean teams, everyone saying TSM is the real deal. A performance like this finally gives people hope.
Ambition may be caught here, but Wraith in to defend him. Sven looking for Crown, finds him with the Q. Does he follow?
No Syndra this time.
Doesn't
Vision
there?
is priority here. Look at these wards. There's a couple of pink wards in River. There's one ward in the Baron Pit they haven't found yet, but they don't really care. Once they force Samsung Galaxy back far enough, they can actually rotate into turrets too. They can poke, they can siege, they can fall back to the Nashor. So many options here for Team Solo Mid.
Haunter pressuring in as well. His bottom lane with the TP ready. Thought about a back, but thinks better of it as he wants to try and take the turret down. And TSM just zoning him off this turret. Samsung Galaxy, what do they want here? They want to engage maybe. Wraith looking for it, finds Sven scaring, but that's all about it. They don't quite get the stun from the Deadly Flourish, so no snare forthcoming, and TSM just back away slowly.
And when I said fall back into Baron, obviously I meant Rift Herald because it's only 70 minutes in the game. Damn, TSM is far ahead.
I mean, look at the gold lead. It's over 8,000, which is massive for this point. You already said they're on track for the biggest lead so far at this tournament. At least at 10 minutes, that was true. They're playing the map well. Contrasting that to someone like Flash Wolves, they've had Haunter in the bot lane, pushing up, forcing the Rumble to rotate. There's just not much that Samsung can do. You can already see they're forced to use Equalizer for wave clear, even though it's really the only team fight tool they have to force a fight.
Yeah, and Bifrost right now, he's just a courier. He goes to base, buys some wards, drops them, and then Moby boots his way back up there, trying to desperately ward all the spots that need warding. Luckily for him, at least Lee Sin has a warding trinket. Accidentally wards something while hopping around.
Yep.
Well, getting some vision down. TSM just kind of creeping that vision forward here, trying to take over space here. Drake up in 20 seconds, so TSM taking control of this right-hand side of the rift makes a lot of sense. But they're actually pushing very deep into these lanes, and we said it already, Samsung just kind of taking what they can get as far as farm goes. TSM will continue applying pressure, and Samsung will just get what they can, and we'll see what happens in 10 minutes if that game is still going by then.
And this also shows you why Alistar is sometimes not really prioritized by some of these teams, because these are the games you remember. Wraith must have not comboed in the last 8 minutes at all. There's no situation where he can actually use it aggressively, so it becomes just a walking cow.
while Samsung have been able to creep vision towards Baron, it's been few and far between. Spawns in just a minute and a half. The aggressive vision that TSM have been able to put down, continue to do that. They'll refresh the wards, and Infernal to add to their Dragon total is good too, and you just have to feel like Baron is a very realistic objective very early in the next few minutes.
Yeah, and TSM, in this season, you know, in some of the 27 games that they've been ahead over 2.5k at 20 minutes, they have never lost. Right now, they have quite a bit more gold than 2.5k up, so that bodes very well for them. They have shown throughout the season that they can close out these games very, very well. Yesterday, they fell behind early, and they honestly got outmatched in the bottom lane, but this day, it's kind of a new TSM. Back to the old TSM.
Yeah, that's what it really
TSM.
feels like. Back to the old TSM here, and I think the Drake's smiling upon them as well. Mountain to start things off, Infernal for the second, and another Infernal lining up. The game is saying, you know what, you're playing fast, loose, and aggressive and trying to snowball the game out of control. I hear that. Here's an Infernal Drake.
Hey, yesterday they lost to RNG. At least RNG can help them win this game.
Feels good, man.
Well, double pushing out the top side of the map. Rylai's is done for Bjergsen. As he's looking awfully threatening on the Syndra, and the Proto Belt's now finished with the Abyssal in tandem for Hornsa. So you can see that win rate at 20, pretty high. They've one of the biggest leads at World so far. 8,500 gold up at the 20-minute mark.
Oh.
It's been an ambition, still dancing back and forth.
The Bronze Classic, the no juking to brush. They'll never expect me to just keep on walking straight.
Hey, Clearlove pulled it off yesterday.
Good start onto Ambition. Finds the few with the spears. Ulti down from Rumble. Going to try and keep the siege off for now, but TSM, they'll take the cooldowns and they'll rally right back.
Forced out an equalizer. In the previous game, Varus alone would have been enough to pull off that task. Pick up, steal away a blue buff, give that nice refresh over to Bjergsen eventually.
Just out of range.
He's going to walk over. Does actually pick it up, manage to take the buff, and Sven will get the grunt for his troubles. So TSM back to poking here under this turret. Samsung Galaxy will see if they can avoid the Bjergsen stuns, because when one of these squishies gets caught, he's probably dead.
And the map is shrinking for Samsung Galaxy. They're sharing farm on their carries as well here. Ruler and Crown desperately trying to wave clear and kind of sharing the CS while it drops the turret too. So these CS deficits are only getting bigger here.
Also looking for a big play around the backside as well. Have to be careful. TSM threatening for a dive, which I think is the right play, but do not want to overextend against a disciplined team like Samsung Galaxy, because they will take the free gold if you give it to them.
Yeah, and there's no rush for TSM. They don't need to panic start a Nashor here. They're just whittling down turrets, just inch by inch, moving up on the map here. Very little vision for Samsung Galaxy. TSM can take it slow for the next 10 minutes and still make use of that lead that they have. So,
I mean, the thing you can do at this point is just, you know, if you've been playing around the inner turrets, if you've been playing so far forward, you've had eyes on the enemy 5 players. At some point, there's just no way that a ward duration wouldn't have timed out when you had vision, and that's when you've got the advanced vision. You know, just there's no way that Samsung firing a cheeky pink ward somewhere has vision, and therefore Baron becomes basically academic.
yep. The only caveat is that you need a ward in the pit so you can counter the blue trinket wards, because they last indefinitely. But once they're on cooldown, that is a very large cooldown. That's kind of the... If you really want all the steps, you push mid, you get the deep vision, you push mid again, and then meanwhile you hope that you get both blue scrying orbs on cooldown. And after you push mid the second time, you can disappear and either make it a bait or a Baron rush. TSM, a little hesitant. A 22-minute Baron is still kind of throwable in a sense, and they don't even need it. They could close out just by sheer split push as well.
Yeah, you can see Haunted is taking some damage 1v1. Cuvate with the Leandry's built up is doing some decent damage here, but Bjergsen is a monster at this stage of the game. I'm not sure Crown's more of Malmortius is enough to protect him just yet, and Bjergsen looks like going for Void Staff third. He'll have plenty of damage online.
Yeah, because Crown is trying to catch up as well. He's sitting on boots 1. When a Syndra drops a couple of spheres on the floor, it's impossible to dodge for him because he simply can't sidestep them. So he's guaranteed getting hit. Yes, he can survive the burst when he gets hit, but it's almost undeniable that he will get hit, and that's kind of problematic for Galaxy.
If you think Varus is hanging back far now, just trying to wave there, wait till he doesn't have Flash or Cleanse, because then he's basically going to be in his own base at his inhibitor turret, or behind it next to his inhibitor.
Firing from the fountain. Guys, I'm here.
Well, at some point, you've probably just retreated too far, Greppo.
Well, looks like TSM have kind of slow played a little bit more, but they're setting up their map here, trying to make sure it's all well and good. TSM playing up in this side of the jungle. Drake up in a minute 30, so might as well play top side for a little while longer. Just again, threatening around that Baron. No need to go for it just yet here. And Samsung Galaxy doing the smart thing and just not base checking.
Yeah, because they have one really good ward in the Baron area. That's something you need to achieve at all times if you can. It's the one right outside of the pink ward range, so TSM doesn't know it's there. So that means they can never bait, because you should see TSM walk in unless they kind of flash over the wall here. that's kind of giving Samsung Galaxy the safety net that they need.
I like the item build too. Ambition's gone for a very early Banshee, but it's actually his first completed item. And that means that he's an extra champion that can hope to face check and not die trying to put down vision.
But TSM is a smart enough team. They know what the reaction patterns are of teams in this situation. When they're this hesitant to check the brush, that means they have some information. Because teams would panic more entering some brushes if there was complete fog of war. So this is kind of grinding their gears right now, and they're going to say, okay, are we going to look for the ward, or are we going to keep contesting these brushes? And eventually, whatever ward they have will expire, just like Papa said earlier.
Inevitable timeout of the wars, not 3-minute fixed timer anymore. They scale with levels, so once it's been a couple minutes, and see, double lift opening up.
Pick on Crown, they just need to stun. Good flash from Crown to get out from under it, but still plenty of damage as he gets poked down to about 40% health and Sven. He wants in, maybe does miss the first Q, but TSM going to start a bit of a siege here.
I was trying to use Ambition as a vessel here to get behind Crow. Go for the kick flash here. Great use of the curtain call there just to slow people down, put them in a static position where Bjergsen can then follow up here. That's one of the ways TSM can play their fights here. They don't need to rely on the execute anymore of that Jhin ultimate. They can just use it as an engagement tool.
Great little transit over here to the right-hand side of the map as well, because they knew the Infernal Drake was coming. So very crisp movement from TSM as Infernal #2 will now be picked up by them. And Samsung Galaxy, again, with no vision, will have to see the objective. And another mountain.
Ooh, RNG, give it, RNG, take it.
Double Infernal, double Mountain. Doesn't even matter that Kennen and Syndra aren't the most adept at picking up the Baron. I mean, double lift on the Jhin, not really either, but with that much equalization with the Dragons, it's easy peasy nonetheless.
And a massive goal lead.
Yeah, by the way, TSM at 10,000 gold ahead at 25.5 minutes, so don't worry too much. As Galaxy again just trying to hold on. TSM, they have slowed things down just a bit to make sure they go through the motions correctly, but if ever there is a pick, TSM will leap into action
Hey,
and just close this game.
Looking for positives, at least the sneaky wards from Samsung Galaxy are really good around the Baron pit. That's something that TSM will need to kind of take care of, or at least learn in VOD review, because if you allow teams to do that against you when you're equal, this is going to screw up all your Baron plays here. So it's very imperative that you always sweep around the edges of the pit, because people love watching you enter the Baron pit without necessarily giving vision on the Baron. Like, all these pink wards are kind of being negated by these very smart wards being placed.
I mean, the storyline we had was that both these teams play League of Legends by the book. We've seen that from TSM in terms of snowballing leads, specifically Bjergsen going wild in the early game, but Samsung have been the team to extend games. They had the longest average game time at Worlds at over 40 minutes. While the nail in the coffin hasn't been put, it still seems inevitable, it still seems very likely that TSM will take down the game. The gold lead hasn't grown extensively in coming on 10 to 15 minutes now.
Still a massive lead, of course, but Samsung Galaxy are doing a great job extending this game, which is what they need to do. TSM, again, busy hiding in these brushes without Baron vision. It's a little awkward.
At this point, it's a mistake, though. They need to realize, when nobody's face checking this brush this long, there is information on the Baron. No team is just going to yield that Baron that easily, because at least when they think you're doing Baron, they're going to expect you to, they're going to expect to face check for some vision at least. Right now, there's a blue orb there too. TSM thinks this blue orb was causing it. That's the problem. They're not operating under complete information, because there's two wards outside. They're fading, but they're both in place by Wraith, and they're both over the edge here, and they give you something. Like, that one is one, and the other one to the top left. The Observer is juking me. Yeah, there we go. That baby right there, that bad boy is the perfect anti-Baron ward.
This is the sort of game where if it had gone the pace it had earlier, you would have thought, TSM didn't even really need to VOD review. They did everything perfectly. But there will actually be takeaway points for them and other teams at this tournament to appreciate just what can happen from behind and extend games in a manner that shouldn't happen.
Double lift at it again, but Wraith is tanking the bullets for all the tanks the last one, but not really too much damage on the Jhin just yet. Definitely more about the autos with that Zeal Atom coming up. And I think TSM now realize we need to sweep this vision.
Yeah, they don't even need to sweep it, because time is the best sweeper. This is the problem. If they sweep right now, they don't find any wards, and they're really going to start doubting themselves. Like, are these guys playing with, like, 6th sense? But they're starting Baron right now.
Here's the panic from Samsung. Cuvee. Crown actually eats the damage. The Proto Belt's on his face, and Dice now flashes towards Cuvee for the stun. The Zon use is good, but I don't think it's going to save him. And Hortzer grabs the double.
That also works. Just start the Baron, guys. Bait him in, lure him in, and then just blow him up. This is what you can do with a 10,000 gold lead. I understand why TSM is so careful, because they're already 0-1 down in the tournament, but this showed them that they can literally just start the Nasher, bait it out, use the peak ward that's in the pit to at least guarantee face check from Galaxy.
Honto was a bit of an afterthought on his first Kennen game against RNG. This time makes the big picks to open up the base. Will be at least an inhibitor coming through for TSM. Probably not going to be able to finish out the game. Only 10 seconds for Crown. It's actually only 28 minutes into the game. It feels like a longer one. But TSM finally blow open the game that should have been theirs maybe 10 minutes ago.
Well, Haunter does narrowly avoid death potentially from Ambition as Samsung Galaxy will respawn and TSM will hit the recall buttons and go back home, mid inhib down, so good pressure pointers. We'll watch this one again. Now Samsung had to face Jay.
Yeah, they don't have any vision anymore. We're looking at a new fight. Basically, they had to walk into darkness because TSM kind of camped in their jungle router for 2.5 minutes. That's how long they sat in that brush. And it speaks volumes to how good their early game was, that Samsung Galaxy, at knowing that the enemy was 5-man in their jungle, could not do anything on the map whatsoever.
Well, the balloons to 12,000, and it just seems inevitable that now TSM with an inhibitor down. Samsung trying to brute force an outer mid lane turret against these super creeps. I'm gonna be able to do that as far as I can tell. But it's only Biofrost here, so maybe there's a window.
He was about to join, but actually is enough from Samsung. Great counter push actually. Catches TSM with some awkward staggered recalls and will get a turret for themselves. That's good space to open up. It is the little things that Samsung Galaxy need to lean on right now, but we have another Drake coming up in a minute 10. TSM have open map to try and play around with, and Samsung Galaxy, if they can keep up their good defense, they may extend the game for a little longer. Is it long enough? Hard to say, but we'll see.
That's very wishful thinking right there. But hey,
That's me.
that's what they gotta do. They gotta keep believing in the throws right here. So let's see what TSM does when they group up with that Baron buff. They're taking their time. They're definitely window shopping, you know, having their careful selection of what items they're gonna purchase with this massive gold lead, and then heading back to the Baron.
I mean, 5 pink wards around Baron seems to be the target. They have to have a feeling that making some oversights when it came to Baron vision that caused the game to be extended at least to the 30-minute points. Game could definitely have been over at 22 to 25.
I love how...
Pink wards, maybe some more sweepers even?
Yeah, they need sweepers, because look at the wards on Asher. Wraith is saying, I'm not going to ward anything in my jungle, because they're going to get that. One in the back of the pit that gets pink warded, one around the wall, and then even more down, the observer missed that one, is one across the wall that watches you walk in that's out of range of the pink ward that's in the pit. So there's 2 entrance spotting wards again by Galaxy, and they're really playing right now with TSM that should be able to just finish this game already.
Clever bit of vision there. It kind of loosens yellow trinkets, not helping in that department. Sven does want the playmaking ability from the trinket, so I get it, but maybe an extra sweeper would be helpful. Still turret falls to TSM, as they will now take 7-2 turrets. Again, so far ahead, but the game isn't over. Samsung Galaxy certainly doing something right as Ambition maybe caught, repels out of the way, goes back down to Svenskeren, gets kicked back in, stun after the concussive blows, and Bjergsen blows him up before the Brawl will come out, and now Haunter's going into the back line. Wraith getting tied up in the front, forced to flash out. Cuvée practically dead as TSM surge forward for a couple kills.
It was just straightforward stuff for TSM. They got the picks. Ambition once again was too far forward. He tried to make the plays this game, tried to do it again, tried to be the furthest point as they tried to get the Baron vision. Honestly, they could have just hung back, because remember, they did have that Baron vision, but at some point you're ceding too much. At some point you're giving too much over to TSM, and now the Baron is free.
Yeah, they're basically afraid of what do we do when they actually start Baron. We gotta stop them at one point. They tried. TSM, it took them a while. It wasn't the cleanest, but they finally secured them the Baron, which will be the next step to end the game here. Trying to keep them out of the base here. They don't have vision in the jungle. Remember, Wraith used all his speed wards on the Baron area, hoping that 2 get swept, place one more. One actually disappears because he places them in this fight. And at this point, the gold lead is really shown in the way this fight goes down.
Ambition actually went in aggressively, I guess because they were fighting in a line. There's a world where the equalizer, you know, when the game was even, the equalizer could have wrecked TSM, but it just wasn't going to be a big factor there. Wraith wasn't on the same wavelength, wasn't looking for a flash headbutt pulverize to root them in place. So just ended up giving up his life, growing the gold lead once again for Team Solo Mid, and the game-winning push can't be too far away now.
And this is going to be satisfying for TSM, especially after the game, once they get some screenshots on like Twitter of like, hey, these were the words. Remember to tweet them next time. Because not only did they get redemption in the tournament, they do it in a fashion which is honestly very impressive against a team that by some critics was actually lauded to be first place in this group, top 2. There are people that think that RNG and Samsung will make it out and TSM won't.
Ooh, it's actually maybe catching onto Bio, but TSM a little too far ahead. Tower's already broken. Sven trying to kick one in, but Bjergsen just blows up Ruler. Gonna get kicked back in. His Ambition as Sven dives in onto him, and it's just carnage in the Samsung Galaxy Nexus phase.
Yeah, people getting smashed right now with this Baron buff. They just put the battering ram in front of the base and just going in.
Let's up, boys.
Well, it's maybe about time for the Nexus start's going to start to get broken. Cuve, barely any health to play with. His Ambition getting dove on as well. TSM going to complete the ace here. His Ambition goes down to Honsa. A double kill for the Canada, seal the deal. And TSM going to win their first game at Worlds.
As up, like I said, TSM should be very proud. Excellent controlled display against a Samsung team that, of course, picked up a victory yesterday. And this is the TSM that people were talking about in scrims.
Yeah, because the game stalled out, we honestly didn't pay enough respect to just how well Bjergsen played that early game and how well TSM as a machine translated their leads from the pushes into the skirmishes. And for me, Svenskeren is still the MVP for that blind face check, dodge into the brush, you know, juking once, getting the cocoon out, and then Hanser and Svenskeren tag team with Bjergsen to get that 2-0 kill lead, and that's when they start snowballing.
Despite the fact that you remember Svenskeren dodging around lanes, getting a lot of ganks off, the most kill participation is actually Bjergsen. 14 out of 18. The cheers of the crowd here lets you know the hometown team, they're back in this tournament.
And that's the thing, TSM definitely a fumble on game one. Much better showing here in day two, despite, you know, definitely some errors. But is this a team that gets better as the tournament goes on? That would be the best news for TSM if they want the success that they have put on themselves for this tournament.
I mean, the happy fact is you call them errors, they're almost oversights. They're almost, I see, you can kind of flip-flop between the two, but those are pretty easy to correct, I would say, go into your next game. And from there, things look good for TSM.
Yeah, it's okay, TSM. Lose one, win the rest.
That guy knows. That's how you come first in a group at Worlds. You can see Samsung players can't be too happy with the performance.
Wish I had fans like that. But it's okay, Crepo. Lose 10, win the rest.